What happens when a vulnerable college football team meets a pissed off college football team? We're about to find out on Saturday.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I'm your host, Kevin Borba. Today's episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for the highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. We're also brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day for free and available wherever you get your podcasts. So make sure to like, subscribe, and follow so I can keep my job. Of course, who doesn't love free things and who doesn't love Melissa Triebwasser from Frogs Insider. Melissa, I got the name right and then messed up the easy part.
Listen, you also didn't tell me you guys had like car sponsorship money, so I want to know when the check is clearing for my appearance. You know what's going on there? No, it's awesome to be here. I'm really excited about the opportunity. Appreciate you asking me on.
Yeah, we're gonna cross over and talk Colorado TCU because in a weird way it feels like they could be rivals. I looked it up before recording. They've only played twice before, and it felt like that felt wrong. I don't know why. I was like, there's no way. The only time I've ever seen these two teams play was Chandler Morris first, Jaron Lewis, and then obviously the 2023 season. So it's going to be an interesting one, right? And I think both teams are in a very different state, and I wanted to sort of get your take on it because TCU, by all means necessary, I guess, looks to be a playoff Big 12 contender. But they did lose to Arizona State, who's one of the other teams fighting for a playoff spot. So talk to me about what a pissed off TCU team looks like and sort of talk to me about what they've been saying about their feelings following that loss on Friday evening.
Well, my hope is that we get a pissed off TCU. And I think that's kind of what TCU fans and those of us that cover the team are kind of waiting to see. This team, you know, you brought up Chandler Morris. Well, remember in that game, you hurt Chandler Morris. Colorado hurt Chandler Morris, and in a weird, he got Wally pipped by Max Duggan,
He did, yeah.
who came in, who had been the starter, lost the job to Morris, and then came in and led TCU on that magical run all the way to the national championship game, which we won't talk about what happened there. That's my standard operating line there. But and so that doesn't happen if TCU doesn't travel to Boulder and Morris doesn't get knocked out late in the second or early in the third quarter. And so I think that people kind of think of Colorado fondly, but then also we inflicted Deion Sanders on college football just a year later, and that crazy back and forth game that set Colorado off on just an absolute rocket ship when it comes to attention and popularity, and started TCU's descent into what would ultimately be a 5-7 season. So while we talked about before we started recording, at the beginning of this is not a rivalry, but it's two games that have been played with a lot on the line and have really kind of set the direction for each season for both of these programs. So TCU, like you said, is coming off of a loss at Arizona State, certainly a contender for the conference. But if TCU does want to be a team that fancies itself worthy of making it to Arlington and potentially of being a playoff team once again, they have to respond, and they have to respond with a ferocity that we have not seen consistently from this program. They've been really good at beating teams that they're better than. And on paper, TCU should be better than Colorado in their development stage right now. But TCU's been really bad, frankly, at rising to the occasion when they've played a team that has wanted it more than they have. That's what we saw, 2 seasons ago in Fort Worth. So this is a really big game for TCU, not because, and I don't want to be like dismissive or anything, but, Colorado's not really in a position where they're probably competing for a Big 12 title this season. They're at the start of a new development cycle. But if TCU wants to establish itself as a true contender, they have to send a message by taking care of business and looking like a type of team that can be dominant in this conference in doing so.
Yeah, there's a word you used a couple of times, the word want. And I don't really know what Colorado wants because they had Georgia Tech on the ropes, and Georgia Tech, I mean, now that we know, the dust is settled, Georgia Tech is a good team.
It's a pretty good team.
They had BYU down 14-0, and it was like, okay, what keeps happening? Why can this not be a first through fourth quarter thing? And I think Colorado, while TCU is sort of at this turning point of what are we going to be? Are we going to contend, or are we going to sort of underwhelm again? I think Colorado's sort of at this weird point of if we don't win this game, we could fall apart. And the reason I say that is Xavier Hill, who's Memphis offensive line transfer, is talking about the lack of leadership, right? Caden Salter, after the game against BYU is talking about how he felt like being benched threw him off and he can't lead because he was benched. And it's like, okay, maybe like that was 2 weeks ago. Like you played against Wyoming, you got the opportunity to start, and there's that. And then you have, and I don't think most TCU fans would like watch this, but Deion Sanders Jr. does Well Off Media, which is the behind the scenes stuff. And there's a clip of the wide receivers coach going up to Omarion Miller, who is Colorado's best wide receiver. And he says, I don't like the body language from any of you, like any of the wide receivers. And it just feels like Colorado is kind of in a lost place right now. And I have a former Colorado player who was on the Colorado team that beat TCU in Fort Worth a couple years ago. And he said the hard part about football is if you don't have leaders at I call them the sexy positions, quarterback, receiver, corner, linebacker, it's hard for the team to follow guys. Like Jordan Seaton is the best player on this Colorado team, but he's a left tackle. So it's hard for him to inspire other people. And I think Colorado is in this weird position where it's like if they lose, like you might see some coaches lose their jobs. You might see some players possibly figure out ways to exit the program. Like this game has a lot at stake for Colorado, just in the sense of like keeping hopes and their season alive, which is a lot to say about game number 6 on the year.
Yeah. And it's so interesting to hear you say that from the Colorado perspective and to hear that. And it puts a little bit more pressure, frankly, on TCU. But I think in a macro perspective, it's not that much different for the Horned Frogs. I mean, there was so much positive energy around this program after what they did at UNC and the way they kind of overcame. And I'll be really honest, I've been to a lot of away games. I've been to postseason games. I've been to bowl games. That first, like, from the minute the pregame started until the first time TCU scored, one of the best college football environments I've ever experienced.
The Fighting Jordans were showing up like that?
They were and it, also the only place where I've not been allowed on field pregame as a photographer because Jordan Hudson was on the field. I swear it was weird. It's a weird environment, but it was awesome. Like you could tell, like the moment was massive, and TCU not only didn't cave, especially when they went down and UNC marched right down the field, but they were the more physical team. They were the more disciplined team. They made plays. They rose to the occasion. They met the moment. And then we saw them, and then we learned, first of all, that UNC is really bad. I mean, they're very, very bad. And so it kind of took a little bit like, well, we got to wait and see. We saw TCU allow almost 300 yards of offense in the second half against an Abilene Christian team, which is not nearly the same team that took Texas Tech to the wire a season ago, and play a back-and-forth rivalry game against an SMU team that is not as good as the team that smoked the Frogs in Dallas last season, but still a pretty good team that's going to win a lot of games in a watered-down ACC. And so kind of like, well, who is this team? What do we know about them? Are they still physical? Can they meet guys at the point of attack? And went into Arizona State and just got whipped. A good Arizona State team. They were a 3-point dog heading into the night. So nothing should have been surprising about the result. But I think how TCU arrived really kind of put the fan base on its heels and made you go, can this team compete against good teams in this conference, against teams with excellent line play, especially defensive line? The offensive line just got worked up and down the field, especially in the second half. I mean, 10 net yards rushing, only 50 yards from running backs, I think, in total, if you take away the sacks. Josh Hoover got sacked 6 times, was under duress the entire night, threw a couple of interceptions, had the strip sack fumble that basically ended the Horned Frogs' chances. The secondary was allowing guys to run wide open. And so you start to go, is this a team that's good, that can get to very good? And that's like that was a really TLDR way of saying, like, if TCU does not win this game and win looking like a complete team, there might be some seats that start to get hot, and people are certainly going to question, can Sonny Dykes be a coach that can elevate a program as opposed to taking a program that just needed a swift kick in the butt with other guys' players? And I think that's kind of what we're waiting to see. How they respond to that loss is going to be massive against a team. Again, like, don't want to be dismissive. Colorado has a ton of talent. They've played good teams really close, but a team that TCU needs to be able to establish itself against on their home field.
Yeah, I don't think there's any shame in being like TCU needs to beat Colorado, and a convincing win wouldn't hurt either, right? It's just kind of one of those things where it's like, if you consider yourself to be that good, right, you have to show it. Like, you can't just keep saying it and be like, well, against Arizona State, the thing was, right? Like, that can't keep happening. And
and Arizona State shot themselves in the foot like 4 times. I mean, they're all American capable field goal kicker, missed 2 kicks. He never misses. The weather conditions were, I mean, it was just a lot of things where you just go, ooh. TCU has something left to prove here, I think, at the early point of the season.
Yeah, I think Colorado it felt like both teams, honestly, last week lost games, whereas like the other team handed you the game almost, and you were just like, no,
Yeah.
please take it.
No,
Like,
I don't
please.
want it. Yeah.
No, it's okay. No.
Snatching
And
victory from the jaws of or snatching defeat from the jaws of victory, right?
Yeah, they're like, no, actually, it's okay. We're fine. No, I think the Arizona State game as well. My former employer, rest in peace, the Pac-12. I was PA at the Pac-12 Networks. Was my first job out of college, and like those late night Pac-12 games never made sense. And I think there's still a little bit of that Pac-12 spirit for some of these like former Pac-12 teams. But the one thing I wanted to talk on or discuss before we moved on is Colorado's vulnerability sort of being weaponized. And that is in the sense of like, can they turn like we have nothing to lose into like we could ruin TCU's season? I think that's the mindset that they need. What would you say is the mindset that TCU needs, like in terms of like, okay, we lost and we're pissed and we want to prove it, but like, what does that mindset look like to you?
I think they need to take it personally. I think they need to take the fact. I've been really happy. Like, I'm very happy to be a part of like the TCU beat reporter community in whatever way that I do it, because I don't think there's a lot of sunshine pumping among this group. And I think the fan base got really unhinged and like were willing to like give up on Sonny Dykes, and I don't think that's fair
College
either.
Football fans unhinged?
No, I know what is happening. There was a lot. Message board genius got a hold of the TCU message board a couple of times, I think, this week, which is always fun to see. But I think that they need to take it personally. I think that we've all been very fair and very forthright in the things that went wrong. And I don't think anybody's like reported things unfairly, but like if you're a TCU tackle on the offensive line, you should look at your PFF grades, which take them with a grain of salt. You should listen to the things that are being said about you, and you should go, that's not good enough, and I want to prove I belong at this level, and I deserve to be a starter at the Power 4. If you are Bud Clark, everybody loves Bud Clark. Every opponent loves Bud. Nobody has a bad word to say Bud Clark. Bud Clark played a really bad game, and he cost TCU. And he did it because he deviated from the scheme and tried to play hero ball. And he needs to come out there and say, I am a fifth-year senior. I am a captain. I'm a leader of this team. I'm going to buy into the system, and I'm going to show people why I am going to be in the NFL a year from now by doing things the right way instead of trying to play hero. He needs to take that personally. If I am a TCU running back, I have been very bad this season. I need to prove I can hit the hole even when there's barely a hole, because God knows this line has not done a good job opening things up. And I need to prove, again, that I am – Sonny Dykes, Kendall Browse did not go get a bunch of running backs. They got a guy from UTSA who had struggled for 2 years because they said, we believe in Jeremy Payne and Nate Palmer and freshman John Denman. Those guys better come out and show why, you know? I think Josh Hoover, you know, if you want to look at him – you're not going to find anyone saying a bad thing about Hoover. He is legitimately one of the best human beings I've ever had the chance to cover. He is everything you hope he would be as a quarterback of your football team on and off the field. But the question right now is, can Josh elevate his game in the tightest of moments? Because not all his fault. Like I said, he was very much under duress. The offensive line did him no favors. He was out his best wide receiver. He was out a starting running back. But he needs to show, I can be that guy. When I don't want to use bad language here, but I use nut cutting time on my podcast, you know, and when it's nut cutting time, like, can Josh show I am elite? Because we all know he's really, really good when things are going well. He needs to prove he can be really, really good when everything's falling apart. And we just really haven't seen him do that a whole lot in his career at TCU. And I think he's capable of it.
Yeah, I think we've seen the flashes from him. Nut cutting had me scared. I was like, what is she about to rattle off here? I was like,
trust me, I am way editing myself of what I want to say, but I feel like that's the most like bathroom humor thing I can say without being, you know, without giving you a rating differentiator there.
Yeah, I like that one. I was like, oh, shoot. I was like, here we go. When we come back, we're going to talk about everything we need to know about TCU and how that could help or hurt Colorado. But first, a quick break. This episode is brought to you by our sponsors at Mazda. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. These are the moments that do more than just put points on the board. They move the crowds, they move the culture, and they keep moving the game forward. This week's moment that moved the game forward is Omarion Miller having to step up as a Wildcat running back because Colorado's down at running back. They put him in at Wildcat quarterback, and he sort of blossoms. He was a 4-star receiver that didn't really click at receiver. Now Colorado found a star in running back. Can he continue to do that? I don't know. We'll have to find out. But he is my moving the game forward moment. So when you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to every Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. This episode is also brought to you by our sponsors over at DoorDash. It's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more time every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. Again, I got to go with Omarion Miller. He kind of steps into a role that he wasn't used to and has been one of the few bright spots for this Colorado offense. We'll see if they continue to use him or if they just put him in the shed and don't use him like they did last week in the second half. But either way, Omarion Miller. So, just like Omarion Miller, delivered for the Buffs, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays with DoorDash Streaks. You save every Saturday you order, stack it up all season, and you can save $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday and keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through November 18th. Welcome back to Locked on Buffs. Sorry for all the hoopla, but we're back. It's me and Melissa. We're talking Colorado TCU, and you kind of teased a little of what to know about what TCU is like sort of struggling with. And the part that really stands out to me is the run or the lack of running ability, because I do feel like TCU's had some good running backs over the past few years, and they've had at least some good players. I don't know if it's always matriculated into what they were hoping, but Colorado is like really bad at stopping the run this year. And so I feel like we're going to meet like an immovable object and whatever that other part of the saying is, because it's like team that can't run versus team that can't stop the run. What happens? So talk to me a little bit more about TCU's strengths and flaws, I guess.
Yeah, I think I referred to them earlier this week as the movable force versus the impossible object is how this run defense versus this run offense is going to look. It's so funny to hear you shout out Marion Miller. Savion Williams kind of did the same thing for the Horned Frogs a year ago. He's now doing the same thing for the Green Bay Packers, which is pretty cool. But 6 games into the season, TCU could not run the ball last year until they inserted Savion Williams in that Wildcat role and really changed the entire course of the year. They brought it out at Utah. Utah was quite possibly the worst Power 4 offense in the country a season ago. But going and winning in Salt Lake City is a really, really hard thing to do. They busted that out. They went on a streak where they won 5 of their next 6 games and then won a bowl game to get to 9 wins. And Williams gets a lot of credit for that. So their big response was, when you lose an NFL caliber player, is go get a guy at UTSA who was really, really good as a freshman and then fell apart the next 2 seasons. And Kevorian Barnes was dinged up. He was injured. But, most TCU fans kind of went, this felt like a patch and not a solution, and in a way where TCU wasn't willing to spend in the portal to bring one of those high-end backs or just didn't get the guys that they wanted. Then Barnes comes out against UNC, and again, we know now UNC is terrible, awful, putrid, but looks like he can be a lead back. He's big, he's strong, he's faster than we think. He had a 75-yard touchdown run to start the second half in Chapel Hill. And so we're like, oh, maybe this guy's good. And he tweaks a hammy in the second half against ACU. And so now TCU's relying on 2 second-year players and a true freshman and just trying to make it work. They don't really have a receiver that can step into that Wildcat role. Josh Hoover is not a running quarterback. We saw him use his legs quite a bit against SMU, which was beautifully refreshing, and then completely go away from it at Arizona State, which may have had something to do with the weather and the field conditions and all that, sure. But so I think it's for 2 years, it's been the same story. Can this offensive line run block? And the problem is the running backs aren't very good. Or is the offensive line so bad at run blocking that it doesn't even matter who you have behind them? I think if Barnes comes back and it appears that he's going to go, we'll see. But right now, I think he went through most of a practice today as we're recording this on Wednesday. If he can go, the thing he does is he gets downhill. He hits the hole. He's going to get you positive yardage. He's going to fall forward. Payne and Palmer, which I mentioned earlier, and then the other guys, Trent Battle, are not big physical guys. They are not going to get, one cut and go kind of guys. They're speed, shifty, twitchy guys that are going to try to get to the outside, which I think really plays into Colorado's hands, because the one thing we know that defense has is good team speed. So Barnes playing is really going to be the difference for this running game. Josh Hoover can drop back and throw the ball 55 times, and they're probably going to have a lot of completions and put up a lot of points. But if the Frogs can't run the football and keep opposing defenses off the field and keep pressure on that defensive line so they can't just pin their ears back and go, it's going to be a really, really long day again for TCU and that TCU offense.
Yeah, I think Colorado's probably like, thank God this guy can't run, Josh Hoover. I mean, he can run, but compared to...
He doesn't run.
Yeah, Bear Bach. Yeah, Bear Bachmeier, who torched them for almost 100 yards. Haynes King ran for like 150 yards on them.
Haynes King is built different though. That guy,
Yeah.
he's ridiculous. I love
Connor
him.
Wigman ran all over them. I said before that game, and I look so foolish now. I was like, make this a Connor Wigman game. Like he make this game about him. Like don't let them run the ball. And I was like, okay, Connor Wigman, I apologize. Right?
Yeah.
You can't.
And you know, good for them. Houston is not embarrassing, and I'm really excited about that. That's good for the league. I don't want to play him this year, but I love that Connor Wigman is getting his redemption story. I just don't want it to be against either of us, right?
Yeah. He played a lot better than I thought he would. But Colorado was like in this weird state because I feel like I don't know what they're good at. And I'm not saying that because I'm not like paying attention. It's just like every week this team looks different where it's like, oh, this week we can't do this. Or this week is like, this is a problem. So like if you would have asked me before the season, am I confident about Colorado's corners going up against Josh Hoover and the wide receivers of TCU? I'd be like, probably, right? You have DJ McKinney, who was the wingman to Travis Hunter last year and was kind of overshadowed because it was like, oh, Travis Hunter's over there shutting down the whole side of the field.
Yeah.
And DJ
winning
McKinney,
a Heisman, like something.
Yeah, winning a Heisman, whatever.
Who's this guy?
How dare he? But DJ McKinney was really good in his own right, and he was getting some first round, second round buzz. And you look at the PFF grades, which, as Melissa said earlier, take with a grain of salt. But Colorado's, I think their top corner is RJ Johnson, and he's been injured. And I think his grade was a 60. I think it was a 69. The rest of them were mid 60s to the 50s. Like this group is not where they thought it would be. And they can't stop the run. They can't really go toe-to-toe with good receivers. And so I think this defense is kind of in a weird spot right now where it's like they need to pick something to take away from TCU and just really, like, if I was Colorado, I would drop 8 and be like, you know what, TCU, run the ball. Do your thing. Try to run the ball and just hope that someone up front can stop the run because, I mean, they can't or they haven't. But you have to pick and choose with this Colorado defense and just sort of, I guess, decide what you're going to give up.
I'll tell you this much. If Colorado's response is to drop 8, TCU's still going to throw the ball and they're going to have success.
Probably.
Like,
but you got to pick one, though.
Yeah, but you got to pick one, right? But to me, I don't care about letting them run the ball. Make them prove they can run for 150, 160 yards because they've only done it once and it was against UNC, which is awful. But what'll be really fascinating is if Eric McAllister does not play, and he was a basically game time scratch on Friday night and has not really practiced, and I do not anticipate him being available for this game. TCU had a lot of success with DJ Rogers, the tight end, who's been really good this season, with Joseph Manjack, who everybody that sees him for the first time goes, who is this guy? Because he's playing with ankle socks. He's got no gloves. There's no sleeves. I'm shocked he has an
AI generated person, honestly.
He is like just this is like, you just want to say lunch pail kid. Like you see him and you go, oh, hard hat to work, lunch pail guy. Like he is the epitome of gritty wide receiver. He's not the fastest guy in the field, but he's going to run good routes and he's always where he's supposed to be.
For those of you not putting the picture together, he looks a lot like me, if you will, right? Like Joseph Manjack and me look very similar.
Yeah, he is just a stocky looking white guy and we love him for that so much. He also shaved the words TCU into his chest hair for the 4th of July. So again, could not love him more. He is outstanding. But he's really good, and he's really good at the quick game. And TCU just forgot that was in their playbook in the second half. You know, we saw Jordan Dwyer, who was awesome against UNC, and when they bracketed and they double and triple teamed Derek McAllister, you know, Dwyer went off. He was a guy who was known. He came from Idaho, as one of the best wide receivers in the portal, and a guy we expected a lot out of, and just had a really bad night against Arizona State. 4 drops that he was credited with, might have been more, and one of them, a ball that hit him in the hands and the chest and turned into an interception. Like, those kind of things just can't happen if you want to win games, especially on the road. So, but he's really good in the middle of the field and in the quick game. Dozie Ezekamba, who's the one who took McAllister's place, like he definitely is flashy. He's got some ability and some talent. And so the talent's there. It's not as good as the room that has 2 guys in the NFL and a third on a practice squad, but there isn't that much of a drop-off when those guys are locked in and when the play calling is allowing Josh to have time to make his reads and scan the field. And so I think there'll be opportunities for Hoover to have a big game against Colorado. I mean, just by all metrics, he should. But these receivers have to be better. They have to step up, and the offensive line has to give him time to get past his first read, and that did not happen in the 3rd and 4th quarter Friday night in Tempe.
Yeah, I think this game will really show how committed Robert Livingston is, Colorado's defensive coordinator, to man coverage. Like, this will be the game where it's like, okay,
please play man.
I was like, this is
play man.
He will. They love them some man coverage, and like last year, you had Travis Hunter, so it was fine. and like everyone did their job. But now it's like you don't have that guy. And so we're going to see how committed they are to doing it, right? Yeah. They did it against BYU, and Chase Roberts kind of did a lot of, he had some big plays. Parker Kingston had some big plays. Like, I don't know why you want to stick to it, but I think when you have so many flaws, it's like, okay, what are we the least bad at? And we're just going to sort of stick with that. And so we're going to find out how committed they are to that. When it comes to Colorado's receivers, before we move on, I do think Colorado has a good set of receivers. The problem is they're not getting the ball, right? Caden Salter, I don't know what happened to him. And I watched him a lot at Liberty, and it could have just been different. There could just be like a difference between group of 5 ball and power 4 ball. And I hate to be that guy, but he just doesn't seem confident or ever really have a plan. Like there was a play against BYU specifically where he had 2 wide receivers open right in front of him, and the camera like has him like locking eyes with one of them. And instead he just runs backwards for a 22-yard sack. And it's like, okay, why? And like the camera pans to Coach Prime, and he's wide open. He is wide open. Like, I think Caden Salter is a little rattled. I think he's quickly learning that this move where he sort of just runs backwards for 15 yards and then outruns people towards the sideline isn't working anymore, right? All these guys are athletic, right? And I think at Liberty, he was sort of exposing where he was just good enough to be better than everyone else. But at the same time at Colorado, he's good, but everyone's athletic. So it's sort of a tough thing to hang your hat on. So we will find out what Colorado is hanging their hat on. I feel like it's a moth-bitten hat at this point, where it's just like has a huge hole in it, but we'll find out. We're going to take one final break, and we're going to talk about what each team needs to do in order to come away victorious on Saturday. This episode is also brought to you by our sponsors over at Peloton, your pandemic favorite, apparently. Peloton is shaping
Peloton
the future.
User.
Yeah. Okay. We love it.
The bike and the tread.
Love it.
Okay. Your ad read.
Perfect. You may as well do the ad read. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with a brand new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus. Melissa, powered by Peloton IQ. It's their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or cross-training with your favorite instructors. This is training reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools that help you plan, stay motivated, and reach peak performance. They have a swivel screen that's a game changer. You could go from running on the treadmill, or the Tread Plus, to strength training without missing a beat. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus today on onepeloton.com.
Team Jess Sims.
I almost committed to a Peloton once, and then
Hey, you can get a really good deal on them right now. This is the time. This is the time to buy.
Sponsor the show. Of course.
I love it. Love my Peloton.
We love Pelotons. I have seen them. I have used them. I did really like it. I was like, this is the most motivated I've ever done, or I've ever been to do cardio in a stationary place, because like you just feel different about it.
They're yelling at you. Like, if someone's staring at me going, you can do more, I'm going to probably do more.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I'm very intimidated.
They all have personalities too. That one guy's on Dancing with the Stars. He's a chill guy, right? Like, they have trainers for everyone's preferences too. It's very true. Let's talk about how to win. Very loaded question, but I'll just sort of start off for TCU, because I think it's quite simple, honestly. I think for TCU to beat Colorado, you kind of just have to make this a Caden Salter game, in the sense of like, make Caden Salter beat you, because he hasn't proven that he could beat anyone that's a Power 4 team, right? He played well against Delaware, played well against Wyoming, and had some moments against Georgia Tech, but ultimately, once teams start spying him, it's like he panics and forgets how to quarterback, which, I mean, when that's a big part of your game, understandable. Another thing that TCU needs to do in order to beat Colorado, find the run. I mean, they haven't been good at it, but Colorado's given up 200 yards rushing per game. So if this was the week to turn the switch on, it would be this week. And then lastly, don't allow big plays. Colorado has Sincere Brown, Campbell transfer. He's 6'5", got the skinniest legs you'll ever see, but he was clocked at like 23 miles per hour the other day. Like, he is so fast. You get him in open field, you're not going to catch him. The problem is he has to get the ball, but you have to shut down all these weapons. And I think that's the path. What would you say Colorado needs to do to upset TCU?
I mean, I think we need to see Caden Salter on the move. If he's moving forward instead of backwards, he can get TCU off schedule. I talked about the hero ball plays. When you have a guy as fast as Sincere Brown, and you have a quarterback that can buy time and kind of play some playground ball, you can absolutely exploit TCU secondary. We've seen it time and time again. They've played some of the best wide receivers in the country who've had a lot of success against them. We saw Kevin Jennings really cause TCU trouble until the very end of the game because of his ability to win. So a mobile quarterback that can run and that can also extend plays and has some good chemistry with his receivers, I mean, that could absolutely be a problem. And I don't think TCU secondary has anyone that can run with Sincere Brown. So that's number one. Number two, put Josh Hoover under duress. We have seen the success. I don't know if Colorado has the guys that Arizona State has on the defensive line, but if they can cause breakdowns and get into the backfield, Josh Hoover just did not have time to play the game of football the way he wants to play it, and that ended up, ultimately doing them in. So I think those are really the two biggest keys. If you can take the crowd out of it, it's a 6:30 game, it's a blackout.
I didn't know about the blackout.
It's a blackout. Yeah, it's a blackout game. So it's going to be really interesting, but this is also, there are a lot of tickets available, for this one. TCU didn't sell out SMU. So I think the student section we had the most students we've ever seen at TCU. They set a record for student attendance against SMU. So I think the student section will be frothy. And that was an 11 a.m. game. This is 6:30. They will have been at the tailgates. They will have a lot to say. So if you can take the crowd out of it early, you can cause Josh Hoover to get uncomfortable, and Caden Salter, forget the playbook, bro. Just go play football. That's how you beat TCU secondary. Get them off schedule. I mean, I think that's how you get it. You get up a couple of scores, or you make something happen. You get an early turnover, take the crowd out of it, then it becomes anybody's ball game, and we see who's vulnerable but willing to overcome versus who's pissed and decides that they're going to actually prove the type of team they can be.
Yeah, I think I think that's the roadmap for each team. So it's you want to win the game, just listen to Locked On Buffs because we broke it down for you.
Put us on staff. We're ready.
But yeah, I mean, it can't be that hard, right?
Yeah, sure.
Final question. I hate to do score predictions, because I feel like I never know what the score prediction. I'm always I'm going to go with a basic score that I feel like is possible. But do you think TCU covers? It's 13.5 as of recording. It could change, barring injuries to someone else, but 13.5. The FPI gives TCU, I think it was a very large % chance. Let's see. Yeah, FPI gives TCU a 79.2% chance of winning. So you think they cover, and do you agree with the computers?
I mean, you have to understand, I'm a TCU alum. My freshman year, we went 1-10. I've lived some lives with this program. I'm always going to be scared to death out of every game that we go into. But I do believe that this team has enough high character guys, has enough leadership that they are going to take the opportunity to step on the neck of Colorado this weekend. I don't think it would matter who it was. They have something to prove. They're going to be at home, night game, blackout, all the things I mentioned. So I do think they'll cover. I think 72% against the Power 4 opponent with the team that still hasn't really proven itself this season is probably a little bit high. But I see TCU having a really hot start because they've done that consistently, coming back to earth a little bit, letting Colorado kind of get within a couple of scores, cut this thing, but then a late touchdown ends up sealing the deal and covering the spread. So I don't feel super confident in saying that, but I do think TCU will cover. I think that is a massive spread for a Power 4 game, but I need to see TCU play angry. So I'm going to speak it. I'm going to manifest it. I'm going to speak it into existence that they do.
There we go. I think Colorado covers but loses. I think it'll probably be a 13-point loss, though. I don't – until I see them string together a consistent game. It's hard to trust them, and I've been talking about it on my show throughout the week. I just feel like there's a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff, and it's one of those things where we'll get an athletic piece about it probably in December where it's here's what went wrong, and it's
after Deion announces he's stepping down.
Oh gosh, that would be catastrophic. But I do feel like we're going to be due for one of those expose style things where it's this is what went wrong. It started here, and I feel like this is sort of the beginning of it, or at least the past couple of weeks have been. And I really feel like this game is going to be a tough one for Colorado if they don't find it. And when Deion Sanders, before we go, but when he said that Colorado was looking for their identity heading into, I guess that would be their fourth game, I was a little concerned. And then he was maybe we'll find it in the weeks after. And I was against BYU and TCU, probably not. I could tell you that. So
if it makes you feel better, we might be revamping our offensive line in week 5. Or game 5. So listen, it's college football. We're all just hanging on and hoping we survive in advance.
You never pick an identity. Just do it whenever.
Just
right?
do whatever.
It'll happen. It'll
Change
happen.
with the winds of the world.
Yeah. Melissa, I appreciate you hopping on. Tell people where they can find you in your coverage so that way whenever they want to stream on over to TCU, they know where to go.
Yeah, you can find me at the Coach Melissa on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, at Melissa Trieb on Instagram, where I post photos. I do a lot of photography during the game, and then our YouTube channel and our Instagram and our TikTok are all Frogs Insider. Podcasts on Apple, Spotify, and our YouTube. We post all those as well. So plenty of places. We post all of the pregame, postgame, and we cover every TCU sport, not just the big ones. So
there we go, Melissa. We appreciate you. You guys know where to find us. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Apple, Spotify, whatever it is, and make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. And I will see you guys after the game. I'm going to go live immediately after. Thank God it's not a 9 p.m. start or whatever they have been for Colorado. I actually won't be exhausted when I'm doing my post game. So we'll have fun, and I hope all of you have a safe and wonderful night. I'm Kevin Borba.